The opinions expressed in this episode or any episode do not necessarily reflect my personal opinions, feelings, or experiences. Hello and welcome to The Block, the first Minecraft and org game show community interview podcast. I'm your host, professional victim Kid Moto, and today we have a really special guest. Today's guest has made a name for himself as a premier challenge threat in Minecraft Survivor competitions. Even though he hasn't appeared in a larger recorded series, NKS has really elevated his brand and public persona to become, I believe, one of the most recognizable players over the last year. From debates to non-recorded games hosted, and even a stint at helping sorry saps like me try and get better at the game with a YouTube series. I am delighted to introduce the always fiery NKS onto the block. NKS, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I really need to make episode 3. I had a couple ideas, had a couple recorded things, and also, what do you consider a bigger series? Because Oxy is like fucking, in my opinion, a bigger series, but I'm very biased.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to disparage like any content creator. I absolutely adore Oxy's series. I more mean like I mean like I think pretty much at this point, like there's just, if you look at like in terms of views and like history, like Chris and Kyle, I would say are probably the only two larger ones. Like maybe Andrew as well. I would say, in my opinion at least, but again,
I don't think you can like disparage Oxy, because like Oxy does not give a fuck. Like so recently Oxy has unfortunately had a car accident while he was delivering for, I think it's Domino's. I don't know what the fuck he does. I do know what the fuck he does. I'm pretty sure it's Domino's. So he was making a delivery and he got slammed. I thought he got rear-ended when he first told me, but it sort of basically asshole slammed the side of his car while he was turning because he thought the other guy was. And now he can't hear out of his left ear. And at first I called him. Everyone's like, "Oh fuck! Oh no, not Oxy, not Oxy!" and then I call Oxy, and then the first thing he says is, "Hey, my girlfriend wants to know what you say Shabbat Shalom on Friday nights and Saturday mornings." I'm like, "Oxy, you got in a car accident." I was like, "Yeah, he's fine. Fuck it." And so I explained it.
I'm glad that he's doing well. I do genuinely mean that. Oh my God. I wanted to ask you if not completely off topic of Oxy, but you are like I would say the most outspoken in terms of like your opinions on challenges and series, and you're really passionate about Minecraft Survivor in general. You were talking about your making episode 3, like your video series. I really wanted to ask you, as someone who sucks at challenges, is it actually possible, in your opinion, to genuinely get better at Minecraft challenges?
Okay, so here's the thing about Minecraft. There are some games out there that are really fucking hard, and those are usually your RTSs. So the main game that comes to my mind that is really fucking hard are games like Civilization, because how the fuck do you get can you like not get better at Civilization? Because there's so much shit to do in that game. There's so many buttons that do so many things. There's so many different fucking little techniques you can do. Games like StarCraft have that. Games like League have that, and they have a very high skill ceiling because they have a lot of different shit you can do with the actual controls of the game. Minecraft has 7 buttons or 8 keys or all that shit. It's so not that complex to learn the basic controls of the game. And that is the hardest part. Once you're comfortable realizing that as long as you know the basic controls of the game, you can get better. I've seen so many games where people are like, oh shit, how do I do a piston puzzle? And then they just sit there for, I don't know, 20 minutes waiting for somebody to figure out how to do it.
I'm ready for a hot take.
Okay,
NKS.
let's
I know
go.
you got them.
I've literally been waiting for this. I'm like, oh yeah, because everybody wants to hear me talk about challenges for now.
Who would you lose to in a like any given day random challenge? Like put every Minecraft challenge that's ever been made on a wheel and you spin it and you face off against that. Who do you not want to face? Who are you losing to and why?
I think that saying, "Oh, I will automatically lose to you," is a really stupid way of seeing it, because it's kind of like Survivor saying that, "Oh, the best player will always win every single game." No, that's not the case. The best players will have a better percentage to win every single game. So I'd say in any ordinary Survivor, going into a challenge, if people in it are of average skill in the community, I will win a challenge probably 75% of the time. However, if somebody else is really good, they might have that same ranking. And if we face off, then we have different we have different sort of whatchamacallit. We have different percentages to win that as well. But if I had to go one-on-one with anybody ever, I'd say the person that would lower my win percentage the most would probably either be Killer, because we are very, very similar in how we play the game. And if either of us make one fucking mistake, the other person wins. So it'd either be Killer, Bobby the Turtle, because he has a different skill setting. He has different skill like set entirely different to mine, because he's from the UHC community and he's one of the better people there. And UHC challenges are a lot different and than regular challenges. So I'm not the best to do those. So if we had to do any challenge, I wouldn't want to see him in one where he knows it and I don't. Those are the main two. Kimmy, when she was really, really, really good. I think Kimmy has slowly gotten worse over time, which is really sucks, because she used to be like top of the game, but she's still pretty fucking good at challenges.
You said something that was a little bit interesting, and I don't have it in my notes, but it's come up a couple times with a few people that I've talked to. You referenced something called the casual community. Is that just referring to sort of like the, non-recorded, any given Saturday or Sunday you can play a game of Survivor? Or is there like a specific group, like, that person's in the casual community or that person's not in the casual community?
I'd say, for me personally, like I think I'm in pretty much all communities you can be in at this point. I don't know. Maybe there's more people. It's like the NKS free zone, but the uh the casual community is not like a set entity. It's not like, hello, I am Mr. Casual Community. Yep, that's me. There's not like a set people like, hello, please apply to join it. But there's some people where you're like, yeah, they play a lot of games. I know them from games that aren't, sort of bigwig games, are like recorded in that sense. And even some of the recordeds, I'd say are mostly filled with people from casual games. Um, and I feel like it's interesting to see people that don't normally play a lot of games talk about the community as a whole. Because I remember I saw Echo's episode, and you asked him, because he's an old schooler. And I'm really good friends with Echo, but I did not agree with what he said, that the community is the best it's ever been, because, well, Echo is not completely alien to the casual community. Things are not good, uh, and I think they have been better right now. So,
I'd love to hear more about that because Echo did get a little bit of pushback for that comment, I think, from
oh, who
from a
gave it
lot
to
of
him?
people. I mean, it wasn't anyone in particular. And Tim pushed back a bit on Echo's comment as well. He said that he just didn't agree with Echo that the community is the best it's ever been. In fact, there's definitely some issues right now. What are the issues in your opinion?
So, anybody that's listened to NKS ramble on and on and on about this is, I do not like, one, I do not like the current Survivor meta, and two, I don't think there should be a Survivor meta. And what I mean by that is, what I mean by like a meta is like the default strategy that will sort of win you games or perform well in games, well in quotation marks, because that's subjective. That play style, I've sort of summarized down into three simple sort of uh, ideas, and they're: get far in the game equals good, target equals bad, and under the radar social game equals only way to get to the end and win consistently. And I think that since I have joined that sort of meta, that like Yep, that's how most people play. Has gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And the off meta players, because I used to call myself like, oh, I'm a physical player. Oh, I'm an anti-social player. No, I'm an off meta player. Every single thing I do is sort of against what most people would do, and so that's the way I say it. The lack of off meta players is really really bad in my opinion, because when everybody starts to play the same thing, everybody starts to do the same sort of whole routine, it becomes easily susceptible to manipulation, and whether that's pre-gaming, whether that's targeting for when you're recorded. That's one thing. You could not even be from a past game. It could just be like, oh shit, I saw X in this thing I saw. Fuck him up. Anything like that. It will happen unless there is no system that can encourage it, and which is why I don't think that there should be a set way to play Survivor. There should be a set. Yeah, this person is doing it right. This person is a correct player just because of the way he plays. Oh, yeah, he's under the radar. And I'm not saying under the radar is bad necessarily. I'm saying that it should not be default.
There's a lot to unpack here, and it's super interesting to hear you talk about it, and I genuinely want to hear more, because I've had this conversation with you at least in some capacity before, and I
Mhm.
think your branding has changed a little bit, and I think it's good, because I think the approach you're taking, at least in how you're describing it now, is a really reasonable argument to be made. What I want to get to is in your opinion, what is the cause of this? What is the root of this development of this meta? Because I think you'll have some people at home saying, well, that sounds like a casting issue to me. That sounds like
Mhm.
a host is picking a bunch of under the radar players, a bunch of people who aren't out there to have fun. They're just out there to do as well as possible. And so it's a casting problem. Is it a I think you'll have other people who will say, that sounds like a community problem where players put so much value and self-worth on how well they do in a game, and so they'll do anything even in the most casual game to do well. Where is the line here? Is it some combination of both of those things? Is it all over the place, or am I missing it completely?
Thank you for asking this question. So the root of the tree, the big problem about this comes from the main difference between Survivor and Minecraft Survivor. We play with each other more than one time or more than two times occasionally. We play a lot of times. And what happens when you play a lot of times is the whole balance of Survivor, the whole, oh, social versus strategic physical part, that completely goes out the fucking window because the social aspect has already begun. Recently, I just played in a 2 day. By recently, I mean the last 2 days as of recording this. I played in a 2 day UHC community survivor mumble community where I'd say I did very well socially. I got people who thought I was a douchebag to unthink I was a douchebag, but by the end of it, there were still people that were better socially than me, and that's why I sort of lost the game at the final six when the goat had to walk, so I didn't have a win condition. And that to me realized that was a big sort of learning moment where people win games based off of their name, not because necessarily that they're friends with everybody, but because people know that people are friends with somebody and this person is a veteran. People have been around for a while. And so when you have Mr. I'm gonna pick a random person off the top of my head. I'm good friends with Joey, so I'll go Joey. Let's say when Joey joins a game, odds are people know who Joey is. And Joey is he's been around for a while, a lot while than even I thought. And he has a sort of positive social stigma to him. People are like, oh yeah, Joey's playing. Fuck yeah, I love Joey. And that means he's more likely to do well socially in the game. Meanwhile, if somebody like I'm not gonna to throw too much shade, but I'll just do me as an example. If I join a game, there's people that are like, fuck you, douchebag. And then there are people that are like, yeah, fuck yeah, NKS. But those sort of lower to a sort of social level that Joey is not on. And so the social game has already started, and that affects who wins. And so let's say that there is no survivor meta, but people know each other. Oh shit, I know this person. I'm more likely to work with this person. And we try not to pregame. We try not to work with people if we've only just because we've worked with them before. But we are human. We fucking do it, and we are pricks about it. So let's say, oh shit, I know Joey. I'm gonna work with Joey. Soon enough, Joey becomes the premier. Yep, I want to work with this guy, and his social game is really, really, really good. People look to that and they think, oh wow, I want to do that. And then they try and act like Joey. They try and win challenges. They try and yell about, and they don't know how to do it. And so they get voted off. Because if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, usually you get voted off. And unless there's a system to make people feel less bad about getting voted off early, people will not like getting voted off early, even though, to be honest, it doesn't really change much whether you get sent home fourth or in fourth. And so people that get sent home early for trying to act like the big shots, they're like, you know what? Fuck the big shots. I'm just going to wait around all day, take the big shots out, and then I'll win. And then that works. That's why people act under the radar. And at the end, they just fucking cut ties with the people that are playing the best games. And then they get fucked up. And then the next game round, it happens a little bit earlier. And then a little bit earlier. And a little bit earlier. Because the person, say Joey in this example, he's prepared. He's like, I know they're going to fuck me up at the final 6. So I'm going to fuck them up at the final 7. So they're just going to get you at the final 7 or the final 8 or down, 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 down until you join a game and you're like, well, fuck, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I'm just going to get voted off instantly. That's happened to me. There's been so many games where I'm just fearful of the first tribal council just because my name is NKS and because I don't follow the Survivor meta. And so let's say that person, Joey, he's like, no, fuck it. I just can't do anything in Survivors, so I'm just going to stop playing them for a while. All of a sudden, the big shots are gone, the big physical and strategic players are gone, and then you're just left with a bunch of social players. And so since the big shots stopped playing, all of a sudden, boom, we have a community full of people that play under the radar and play socially. And it's not a casting issue when 90% of people follow the strategy. It's like if you're trying to avoid this problem, you have to literally source the people like directly in terms of like DMs who you want that don't follow this meta. Because even people that are really good players tend to follow this meta. To be honest, kid, I feel like to an extent, you somewhat follow this meta, at least in some games that I've seen you play.
Sure, yeah, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that you're saying, but I do think that there should be some thought to so there's two parts to this. I think on the one hand, I would like to know what you think about does there fall some responsibility on the players to say, hey, I'm not going to play in this game this weekend because I know that 6 out of the 7 people, on what I perceive to be my starting tribe are going to be, a certain type of player. Can we solve this problem by, instead of a Joey, for example, leaving the community altogether, being a little bit more selective about the games that he does decide to play in?
I think that it entirely revolves around the players. I don't think that there's a hosting issue here because the hosts do a fantastic job, and the hosts start hosting because the players want it. The players are the driving force behind literally everything. Not one person can decide to make a change. So the reason I faced a lot of shit for me saying what I think and what I think needs to change.
I want to give you the opportunity now to use this platform and say, we don't agree on that particular issue, especially, you mentioned my game and me personally. I try not to talk about it on the show, but I will say, a lot of times, and I can speak for some of these players at least, like not everyone in Survivor, you have to fall back on your assets and what your strengths are. And there are a lot of people who are not good at challenges, and you could say that the meta in casual community games that aren't recorded tends to be get out the big threats, get out the big names first. But I will say from my anecdotal personal experience, and I know this isn't even close to the number of games that happen every single weekend, but I noticed that in recordeds or games where your performance equates to some sort of recognition in the community, right? Like
Hmm.
doing really well in Chris's or doing really well in Kyle's or any of these recordeds that have, multiple hundreds of views and people talking about them. I've noticed the people who, are strategic and social but struggle in competitions, some really likable people like a Gonzo in Chris's
Hmm.
Nile, or even Chris Keisha, the first boot of the Nile, right? Like those are people that are taken out strictly because of their performance in competitions. And so do you think that that tends to be because those casts were more no one knows anyone, no one knows each other, and so we default to sort of like real quote unquote survivor where people who are bad in challenges, old ladies, tend to get voted out
Hmm.
first?
Yes.
um okay, yeah, because I'm curious, because that does kind of seem like a counterpoint to your thesis about
Yeah.
the metagame.
Yeah, and it's a really sort of deceiving one because it assumes like Chris's whatchamacallit. It assumes that the Nile was very similar to a lot of other games. And that couldn't be further for the truth, because as you mentioned, not a lot of people knew each other. But then again, some people did, so I'm not gonna use that as a point. But also the format of the game strictly encouraged people to make assumptions about people, to make alliances based off of age. And at the time of watching that, I was 15, and I saw Banjo, who I had known for a year.
Friend of the
Uh,
show.
yep, I know. I was watching Banjo. I'm like, Banjo cannot win this. Banjo cannot win this. And so it like, because how the fuck is a younger person gonna be able to talk and get listened to on the same playing field as everyone else? Salted did the best he could. Didn't fucking work. There's a reason why the old fart tribe like you guys. There's a reason why you guys did exceptionally better than the younger tribe. And so I see shit like that, and that is where the game sort of is focused around, not the sort of physical, strategic, and challenge split. And that's also because there are no physical players on the Nile. And I know you're saying, "Oh, Landslide's pretty good. Landslide's pretty good." Put Landslide in a room with a lot of even people that I'd say aren't like super super good challenge beasts, but people that know their shit. Landslide will probably lose. Like there's people lower down on the list, like Danny. I never really think of Danny as a challenge beast, but Danny's pretty. I think if you put Danny and Landslide in a challenge, Danny would probably beat Landslide, and that's sort of saying something about the general challenge strength of the Nile. And so to say like, oh, they didn't get out the big physical players. What big physical players were there to get?
I mean, you do have Gum from the UHC community, who I would say is pretty gifted in challenges. I would say JP is, probably in the upper echelon of puzzle threats, and then Loon, who was a former professional gamer as a whole. But we could break it down. I understand. I do understand what you're saying. I want to shift gears because seriously, NKS, I would genuinely love to maybe even have you back again at some point, because there's just so much that I want to talk to you about. And I do think that like a platform like this, you actually um, you articulate your arguments in a really strong way, and in a way that makes me think about the community. And that's the purpose of this show, is to get people thinking and talking about the community, because there are positives to it, and what you're saying has merit. But I want to hone in on one thing you said, and I want to dive in, and I've got two more questions for you. How do we how do we fix it? You have total control over the Minecraft survivor community. People will listen to whatever you say, and you're giving your decree on this podcast right now. What do you say to the people to solve this problem?
We have to become dirt loving, piss pantsing, no showering anarchists, and destroy any and all hierarchy we find in the community. And what I mean by that is I use anarchy as an example, partially because that's what I'm familiar with, but also because I feel like the entire root of the reason the problem doesn't come from the schism in the community, but the problem cannot be fixed without the schism being mended. And what I mean by that is there's definitely sort of a class structure in the community. There's people that are like, oh yeah, this person's really fucking popular or cool or that kind of shit, and people sort of don't really tend to talk to people like not necessarily like avoid them, but people usually wouldn't hang out with people from a different tier or even just a different section of the community. Like you wouldn't see someone like Liz. I wouldn't necessarily see Liz hanging out in a random game and playing with someone like Ben or any of the Lil Man Production Squad. Those guys, they sort of hang out to themselves. Liz hangs out with her friends. Um, I hang out with as much people as I try to, but there's some people that only talk to their friends, and I could probably name names, but I don't want to have to scroll down my friends list even farther. And I feel like the way to fix this is to everybody to decide, you know what, I'm gonna make a new friend. I'm gonna go maybe DM somebody, maybe just talk to them in the game. I'm gonna go up to them and say, "Hi, my name is so and so. Let's be friends." Because it's really not that hard, in my opinion. To I'm not saying it's easy to make friends because sometimes people have it hard than others. It's not that hard to start to make friends. It's hard to you know keep their attention. But like if you just go up to somebody in the game and be like, "Yo, what's up, man?" You'll probably be chill with them. And I feel like if everybody did that with more and more people, soon enough, you're starting to get more and more people from different parts of the community. And that's why, if you start inviting people to other different games, that's why you might see somebody like that would only play in a particular game, maybe like Cav. Cav usually he plays in a couple of recordeds, but he doesn't necessarily step up and play like some of the bigger casual survivors. I was talking to Cav one night. I'm like, hey Kev, you should show up for Killers and see if you get in. He didn't get in, sadly. But the more and more people you do that with, the more and more people you start to introduce to other people. And so soon enough, there starts to be less of a hierarchy. There needs to be less of a class structure. And then if everybody is on the same playing field and then you see everybody relatively equally, then boom, you can start to fix your problems by communication. Because if you're going to fix the current survivor meta, which I think personally is driving people away from the game and also making the games less enjoyable for those playing it, in order to fix that, you need to have empathy for those that see different than you. You cannot solve a problem by only talking. You have to listen. And I feel like people are really, really bad listeners. And if people can get better, then everything can get better as a whole. This entire community, and I've seen how communities die. And the reason why I sort of get really pissed off when people sort of mock me or like sort of disregard me is like, I know my shit. I was in the hardcore community, and I know how a community like that can die. And the hardcore community was a separate Minecraft community that died because people started separating off into little cliques, and people started pissing below them or their current clique just so that they could get into a higher clique. And I don't think it's necessarily to that point because everybody is a lot more mature. But I feel like people that just joined the community are going to have a harder time playing games with those that are necessarily in a higher sort of tier and understanding them. But if everybody, I know nobody's gonna. It's also a time issue. Nobody's gonna have time to sort of play games with everybody. But I feel like if everybody tried a little bit more, they could make the community a better place. And it comes from the masses. It doesn't come from one person being like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. There is no leader. There are only sort of aggressive cases of strong leadership, not necessarily one sole dictator.
NKS, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I really hope you feel like you've been able to say what you want to say, and I hope everyone at home is listening, because whether or not you agree with the current status of the community and game shows, I think the message at its core is a good one. And so I would love to have you back to talk more about you and your personal experiences, because we did focus sort of on the broader community as a whole. But I do have to wrap things up. NKS, if there's anything else you want to say to everyone, now would be the time to do it. But other than that, thanks again so much for coming on.
Yeah. The one thing I want to say is that Oxy Survivor Season 8 is going pretty fucking well. We're almost at the merge, so everybody should start watching that if you haven't already, especially the first episode, because I spent way too fucking long on that and I'm not gonna let it go. But yeah, plug aside of the way. No, that's pretty much it. Also, my DMs are open if anybody wants to talk, because I feel like I go up to try and talk with a lot more people. I have a lot of conversations way into the night with people. People don't come up to me and have them. I come up to those guys. So if anybody wants to listen to NKS ramble, my DMs are open. NKS hashtag 5976. If you can't find me just by typing NKS into Discord.